If you think you could never be vegan, you're in the right place. And if you think there's something big that you would really like to do, but it's probably too late, you're in the right place. My name's Michelle Olander. I think there has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. So I'm here every week to cheer you on and ask you to try to veg your best. Episode 160. What do you mean my perfume isn't vegan? Welcome back, my veggie besties. Welcome back. Did you notice that last week I didn't say episode number 159? Well, that's because it was cut out because I said episode 160. No, today is episode 160. So thank you, Charlie, for catching that and cutting it out. And this week, episode 160, we have a guest who has a name, I think it's straight out of a novel. Madeleine Thorne. That's a great name, right? Perfect name for an Edwardian suffragette or an MI5 operative. But for quite a while, I only knew of Madeleine Thorne as Vegan Perfume Girl on Instagram. And for months, maybe, I guess it's years, I've been enjoying Vegan Perfume Girl posts about the delight she takes in learning about vegan perfumes and in supporting vegan perfume companies and also discovering artisanal perfume workshops and ateliers. And part of the magic, I think, for me anyway, of Madeleine's posts are trying to imagine the scents from her descriptions. The other day she mentioned orris, Orris. She mentioned orris as a note in one of the scents, and I know that orris root exists, but I could not for the life of me remember that orris root smelled like anything at all. We used to use orris root as kids when we made pomander balls at Christmas. Did you ever do that? Sticking cloves in oranges, and then they kind of desiccate, they dry out, and they smell divine. Well, I thought we rolled the pomander balls in dried orris to help preserve them so they didn't rot before they dried out. Anyway, long story. Anyway, I was obsessed, not remembering what orris smelled like, and I ran to the market but couldn't find any, of course, any orris at all. And by the time my brain calmed down enough to realize that an artisanal vegan perfumier is probably not using the dusty supermarket orris powder of my childhood anyway. So anyway, I came to my senses, but such is the power of Vegan Perfume Girls posting. It's amazing. So I remain intrigued, but that's the magic. That's the magic of Vegan Perfume Girl, Madeleine Thorne. So even if you don't wear perfume, even if you don't care about perfume, I think you're going to get a kick out of learning the reasons that perfume's not necessarily vegan, how to find vegan and cruelty-free perfumes and scents, and how a little hobby became a passion that informs Madeleine's personal activism now, and how mild-mannered Madeleine Thorne became Vegan Perfume Girl. We'll catch up on the other side. Madeleine Thorne, the Vegan Perfume Girl. Welcome to Veg Your Best.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's very exciting.
Oh, well, I'm so delighted that you finally said yes to me because I've enjoyed your Instagram content for quite a while now. It's called Vegan Perfume Girl, right? On
Vegan
Instagram.
Perfume Girl, yeah.
That's your handle. And you're not selling us anything.
Nope.
You don't have a website. You don't have a book you're promoting, nothing like that.
No. I have nothing to sell.
I think that's so great. I think that's partially why I'm so excited to talk to you, because you are an Instagrammer who talks all about and shares what you enjoy about vegan perfume. So let's start with, what do you mean vegan perfume? Why isn't perfume vegan?
Oh gosh, well, no, not always. There's lots of ingredients that find their way into some perfumes which aren't vegan. I mean, I think different vegans will probably have different kind of boundaries about what they consider acceptable or not. But so, I mean, but traditionally people will think about things like deer musk, civet, castoreum. Those are ingredients that are literally extracted from animals. And they're not used all that much now, but they do still get used sometimes. There are synthetic alternatives. So sometimes you'll still see castoreum or whatever it is in an ingredient list, but it's actually a synthetic accord, which is kind of one that's been created in a lab. But yeah, and then there's other things. So often perfume will use beeswax, honey. They'll even use things like butter, CO2, which is like an extraction from butter or an extraction from milk. There's various things that kind of come from insects that are used, and ambergris, which is I don't know how to say it politely, but comes from the rear end of a whale.
And is that still used? I thought that was very
yes.
19th century. Oh, you're kidding. You're kidding.
Yeah, and it is still used. I mean, it's so people will talk about ethical ambergris or beachcombed ambergris. So you can actually find it on the beach, like washed up on the beach. So often people will. I know vegans who will accept or who will use perfume with ambergris in it, because there is that method where essentially you've just found it, and so yeah, obviously you haven't harmed the animal. That's not the only way of getting it, and to me it's just icky apart from anything else. So I definitely don't consider that good, but it's people feel differently about it. So I suppose there's no legal definition of what a vegan perfume is, but for me, anything that I wouldn't be eating, I wouldn't want in my perfume either, really. So yeah.
Now, tell me, so that is interesting. And you're going to talk about some of the different companies that you run into, and you're not a paid spokesman for any of them. This is only your enjoyment. And there's so many. I know I asked you on Instagram one time, how do you keep track? And that's another good answer. I'm going to let you talk about that. But what started this practice of recording sometimes almost every day, your finds in the vegan perfume world?
Well, I think so I've been a vegan a pretty long time, 17 years. I think, when you're a vegan, you go on a journey, and at first you don't realize these things. Perhaps you start with food and you get stricter and stricter. But certainly for the last probably decade, I've been conscious about the fact that not all perfume's vegan, and the other thing is about whether it's cruelty free. I should mention that as well, because clearly as a vegan we want to use cruelty free products, but actually companies can label things vegan even if they're tested on animals. So you kind of think the two go hand in hand, really. It has to be both vegan and cruelty free.
That's a very good point. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it is a bit of a problem because I think well, I'm not sure about over where you are, but here veganism has really grown recently. And so companies are putting vegan formula or whatever on their packaging. And I think often vegans don't realise, or especially new vegans don't realise, that doesn't mean it's not tested on animals. And it's kind of it upsets me a little bit. So I try and always talk about vegan and cruelty-free perfume, even though I believe that vegan perfume should really be cruelty-free, or it shouldn't really be called that. But anyway, so for a long time I've been conscious of it, and I've always been looking for a place for information about that, and I've never really found one. One good source, or one website, or one anything really that kind of just obviously get certain companies, but in terms of something that sort of summarizes it or kind of has everything in one place, I just couldn't find anything. And I was going through a bit of a kind of I suppose we would call it a personal bereavement, or a really difficult sort of period in my life, and it was kind of coming to a head, and I was kind of, I think for a little bit of each day, sort of just going into Instagram and scrolling almost as that kind of escapism thing, and I kept looking for this page that I wanted to exist. This vegan perfume page, and in the end I thought to myself, well, it doesn't exist, so maybe I should do it. And as the kind of situation that I was facing sort of came to a head, I thought, well, I had some compassionate leave from work, and I just thought, this is something I could maybe do in this period. I can't be jolly all day long, but maybe every day I can have a few moments of creativity. And it was just really thinking about taking a photo of one of my perfumes and sharing it. And it's a manageable thing. It's just a small moment. It's something that I feel like isn't here that I wish was here. So maybe I need to just stop thinking that and start making it myself. I didn't have any expectations about anyone following me or anything like that. It was just something that I thought would be a nice distraction, a little creative something. And I think as well, because I've been a passionate vegan for a long time, 17 years, but I'm not the kind of vegan that wants to sort of, I suppose, tell people off or go, oh well, you do know they do this and that, and obviously that has its place, but it's not my thing. And so I thought, actually, celebrating something, being joyful about something that's vegan, for me that was kind of a little nod to vegan advocacy, and so that's where it started, really. I just got more and more followers. And I can remember when I got to 20 and I was absolutely astonished. Like, who are these people? What's going on? And now obviously I've got a fair few more than that. But and it just went from there, really. And I ended up I've connected with lots of vegans through the page, including yourself, which has been fantastic. But I've also connected with a lot of perfume fans through the page, and there's an online community of both those groups, which is really quite wonderful. My husband always says, "You found the one nice corner of the internet." And I just love it. I love talking about perfume with people. I love talking about veganism with people. So it's just, and it's just, I think it did really keep me going through that really difficult period, because I could spend most of the day upset, but I just had something that, it was just a moment. And then, things have kind of, COVID and all sorts of things have gone on since then. And it's just been a nice constant and just something that I really kind of enjoy. So yeah,
I think it's just such a delightful, cheerful, wonderful thing to look at when it comes through my feed. And you must also, what I also like about it is you are focusing on sometimes very small brands, very small niche companies, which I think you've a couple times mentioned companies I've heard of, but normally these are companies I have never, ever heard of. And I love perfume. And I basically, since I've been vegan, I don't trust a lot of the labels on, especially on cosmetic type things, because people say, oh, it's vegan, but maybe only one product in the range is vegan. Yeah. And that happens all the time. So I do have a backlog of perfume, which I still have. So but I have tried some of the ones, and I'm telling you, they're such small brands that I can't even remember the names of them currently.
Yeah, I think that was almost by accident, probably, because obviously as I got more into it, as I kind of connected with more people, and I heard about different brands and I started exploring. And I think the thing is, in a way, it's the smaller brands that are very upfront often about which of their perfumes are vegan, and you can email them. Well, I do email them a lot, and they will. The perfumer themselves will answer, and will tell you in plenty of detail which ones are, which ones aren't sometimes, and why. And of course, much more likely to be cruelty-free when it's a small scale kind of production. So you find a lot of vegan and cruelty-free perfume within the kind of indie perfume world. But I think the other thing is that, so I work in the arts, and to me, perfume is an art. It's an art form. And so I think when you buy perfume from a small indie maker, and when you buy it straight from the person that's made it, who actually is an artist, a kind of an aroma artist, then I think that's you're supporting artists. And I think when I talk about indie perfume, I feel like it's kind of that as well. It's kind of highlighting artists and kind of like sharing the joy of their practice. And I think there's such a massive difference if you look into, you know, how a big designer kind of perfume gets made, and, you know, thousands of people involved, and it's by committee, and it's, you know, focus groups, and they've designed the packaging first, and it's just, you know, really it's a production line. Whereas I think a lot of the time with indie perfume, it's a labor of love, and there's a very interesting story about how it came about, and it'll, you know, the perfume itself sometimes tells a story. So I think it's just a more interesting part of perfumery to me, and it is where a lot of the vegan perfume is. So because very, very, very few designer perfumes are vegan and cruelty free. So
yeah, even if they say they've stopped testing on animals, many of them still have to test if they're selling in China or in selling in other different markets. They still have to.
They do have to, and there's lots of fantastic websites, which I'm sure you'll know about. I'm not going to think of them now. Talking about ethical elephants and things like that. You know,
ethical elephant is one of them.
Yeah, and you can look up. You know, that'll only work for the bigger brands because obviously they don't necessarily know about the smaller brands. But and I mean, the vast majority can't be really classified as cruelty free, and some of them do label their perfume vegan, like we were talking about before, because it might be vegan ingredients. That doesn't mean it's cruelty free. So there's that as well.
Yeah, because you enjoy them, and you have do you have a rough number of how many perfumes you have? Not in your life, maybe, but since this project unfolded, do you have a round number?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, I'll bet you'll ask me that. So I think I've got about 70 full size perfumes, and probably around about the 100 mark of travel sizes.
Yeah, travel size Tuesday, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think travel sizes are fantastic because it means you can just try lots of things and you're not committed as much. And also it's cheaper when you want to try lots of things and you wear different things every day. You don't need that much of anything. So I do have a lot of travel sizes. But yeah, I mean, it is a huge collection. It is ridiculous. But I know people with much bigger in the fragrance community.
I guess.
They probably say I've got a moderate collection, but it really isn't moderate at all. But, you know.
And I think one time you showed, was it your husband had helped you set up a display area? Or
yes.
Tell me about that.
So I had a baby at the start of last year, and he said, what do you want as your, sometimes you can have a present when you have a baby. And I said, I want a perfume cabinet, because I'd had them all stuffed in the drawer of my dresser, which I still have my travel sizes in there because it was my grandma's dressing table, and I do love it, but they were kind of outgrowing the dressing table. And so we found this, and it's basically it's an IKEA bathroom cabinet. So it's very shallow, and it's got a mirror on it, and then it's got glass shelves, and it's perfect. And it went on the wall. And I feel like I can justify to myself that I haven't got too many, as long as they all fit in there in terms of the full size bottles. And I mean, they are slightly squished now. But yeah, and my life is kind of chaos, really. I've got 2 young children, 2 dogs, madness, and I just love the calm of my perfume cabinet, and everything's in order and where it should be, and smells beautiful, and I can open it and it's like another world.
What, like Narnia? You just go through this one little spot.
Exactly.
That's fabulous. So now, what is your profile as a consumer? And everything we're going to be talking about is vegan, but as a consumer, what's your profile? What kinds of fragrances do you love? What kind of fragrances maybe are not for you?
And I think it kind of evolves and changes. It's interesting when I before I was pregnant the second time round, I wasn't really interested in sweeter perfumes. I wouldn't say sort of, gourmand, as you would call it, things that smell of sweet food and things like that. Vanilla, that kind of thing. But I got a taste for it when I was pregnant, and not a taste, smell for it. But yeah, I got into it, and I've kind of stayed with that a little bit. So I think my taste is sweeter than it used to be. I also love spice. I absolutely love spicy perfumes. I mean, I feel like it was one of those things, I've probably got too many, and I could probably just choose a couple because they're all quite similar, but I love them. I like powdery perfumes, so that kind of makeup-y, talcum powdery kind of thing. And I think recently I've been really getting into, I suppose, what you call vintage style. So things that are either aldehydic, which is the thing that I don't know if I should name non-vegan perfumes, but the Chanel No. 5 made famous this kind of sparkly, bubbly, kind of soapy, clean thing. And it smells really, it has a really nice vintage kind of feel. And I'm really into that at the moment. Perfumes that feel like timeless and vintage. I don't often go for kind of straight flowers. Certain flowers, maybe. I love iris and violet and carnation, but things that are just floral, I wouldn't. I don't have many like that. I don't often go for aquatic. I've got two, which are the ones I wear if I ever go to the seaside.
That's what was going to remind me, because some of them, when I'm looking at you, first of all, the photos are lovely on your Instagram, but then I read the names of them very often, and a lot of them are like sea salt or salt spray, or that's maybe a newish type of name niche. Is it a different kind of formulation too?
I'm not sure what do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, sometimes when they say things like sea spray or salt something, I wish I knew what they say. The sound, I'm like, what is in it if it says salt spray?
I see what you mean. So I think maybe it happens more with indie perfume, but you get a note list, and so you get a sense of what a perfume will be, and it might say, oh, well, it smells of vanilla and violet and whatever it might be. But I think it's maybe more of a recent thing, but I think perfumers will often also say, and candle wax or old books, and those will always be accords, which is kind of smells that they've created themselves from several things. I've one that I've been posting about a lot recently, which is Fox and the Flower Bed by Imaginary Authors, who are a fantastic American indie house, fairly affordable, and they make such creative perfumes. And I was talking about that one having mounted breeze in it, and it kind of does. I mean, I don't know, you read it and then you kind of that helps you smell it, but it has that feel, definitely.
That's great. That's great. So is there a difference in style? Would you say you're in the UK? You're in Yorkshire, the north of England. What is there a different style for American perfumes, do you think, as opposed to UK or continental perfumes?
In terms of indie, I think I'm not sure. I think there's some really lovely quirky kind of companies, I think, in the UK. I mean, one of my favorites, which you'll see me posting about all the time, is 4160 Tuesdays. And they sell in America, actually, but they're a fantastic indie company. They have hundreds and hundreds of perfumes, but they're quite quirky, and I like that. Every perfume tells a story. And they've got ones that are supposed to be, the smell of the British seaside, or whatever it might be. And I think you get quite a lot of that in the UK. I don't know. I think I've got into American perfumery more recently, actually, but I'd say that's quite diverse. I mean, I suppose it's a massive country, isn't it? So I think I find it hard to put my finger on one style. And then I think in general, like mainland Europe, maybe slightly more sophisticated and elegant and kind of refined. A lot of the time with the brands that I like from there, they do, they veer more towards elegant and lighter, maybe. But I mean, that is generalization. Obviously, there's all sorts of companies everywhere. But
now, are there any, in terms of the different artisanal or independent makers, are there different ingredients that they use as bases, or ingredients that are local to? You're not a perfumer, as far as I know. You're an amateur in the traditional sense of it.
Yes, I am.
But I'm wondering if I've been in the olden days. I've been to France, to Grasse, which was the very famous area of a lot of French perfumers.
Amazing.
And they use a lot of the lavender they grow locally, a lot of the different flowers. So I'm wondering if you've run into, in your world now, if you've run into different kinds of locations in the use, the local materials.
Yeah, I think that is a thing more with indie companies and goods. They tend to be more, I suppose, more transparent about their ingredients a lot of the time. So they'll tell you where they, a lot of the time they're more ethical as well. So they'll tell you where they've sourced, because I don't know how much you know about all this sort of thing, but things like sandalwood, there's quite an ethical dilemma around natural sandalwood, because it's It's very rare, and I think bad things happen to people in the process of getting sandalwood, and you have to kill the tree to get it as well, so it's not very sustainable. There's new ways of making it now, but
oh wow.
so a lot of the smaller companies would be quite upfront about. There's an amazing company in the UK called And Fragrance, and it was set up by one of the people who set up Lush, that I think you do have in America. And yeah, his whole thing is about kind of each perfume focuses on an ingredient, and he's that you'll read the whole history of why they use that particular ingredient, why it's sustainable, how they work with the local community, and all that kind of thing. And I think that's really lovely. Obviously it's more ethical, but it's also more interesting, and it just brings it to life on your body. I mean, another of the perfumers that I really, really, really love, one of my absolute favourites, is an Australian perfumer called Tion Reinfeldt. And
would you say the name again? T-O?
Yeah, Tion. T-E-O-N-E, Tion Reinfeldt. So she's a natural perfumer, so she uses only natural ingredients, which is not massively common. And yeah, she's got a few. So I lived in Indonesia as a child, and she's got a few that use sort of ingredients that are literally sourced from Indonesia. And sometimes I find that really magical to wear that on my skin and know that I've never been back to Indonesia since I left as a child, but I've got Indonesia on me. I'm smelling Indonesia, and there's something quite magical about that, I think. Yeah.
Well, I do think there are smells. Of course, it's true with our sights and sounds, but I know there are certain smells I have, and I am back to one grandmother's house as a small child or another's. One grandmother, violets. Always, I smell violets, and I think of her. Yardley.
Yeah. Yardley. And they reformulated not so long ago to make everything vegan and cruelty free. Fantastic company, even though they've been going hundreds of years. Yeah. And I don't know much about the science behind it, but I believe that the sense of smell is the only one that's kind of connected immediately to that part of the brain. So nothing works better for kind of bringing back a memory. It's much better than seeing a photo or even hearing a song. Those things help too. But yeah, and I think smells bring things back that you didn't even realize you had in your memory a lot of the time, and that's magic too. And I had that actually with Tion Reinfeldt, with one of these perfumes from Indonesia that I mentioned. And when I smelt it, I literally had all these memories that came back from Indonesia. It was really quite extraordinary. And then sometimes I think, things feel really familiar. You can't quite put your finger on why, but it makes you laugh. I think probably most of what we like and don't like smell-wise is connected to childhood memories and things, ultimately.
I'm sure you're right.
But yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
So if for we have people who listen to this podcast who are card-carrying vegans and level 5 vegans, and we also have people who are just thinking about it and maybe thinking about doing. I feel like supporting vegan artisanal perfumers is something you don't have to have completely changed everything about your life to really want to support, rather than basically a big chemical company for many of these other.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons to do it. And I have to say that in fact, a lot of my favorite companies aren't exclusively vegans. A lot are, but not all. But they are very transparent about the ingredients they use and answer my questions immediately about which ones are and which ones aren't vegan. So, but certainly, ethical and cruelty-free in that sense. It's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? And and I think I probably spend a bit too much money on perfume sometimes, but when you're buying from indie perfumers, you think, well, I'm supporting a small business. It's not just going to some giant, conglomerate somewhere. You're literally supporting someone's livelihood, someone's art, someone's passion. So I think you feel better when you buy from those people. Yeah.
I agree. I think, because you assume some of the people I've learned about through your Instagram site, they're buying local ingredients. They're employing local farmers and local horticulturalists, and I mean, and they're not just creating a glass jar or bottle or sprayer and then figuring out what to put in it afterwards as a marketing campaign, or paying a celebrity, millions of dollars for their advertising. So I think it is it's such a nice thing, and it's also a message, isn't it? When we vote, when our fragrance dollars go to someone like that, it's not like the big companies don't notice.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And I think especially, sort of with COVID and things like that, smaller business is, obviously we're at risk, and yeah, I just think it's a nice, powerful thing to be able to do.
An ethical thing for us to do on many levels.
Yeah, and you're getting better perfume, honestly. It's so much better. I mean, obviously I can't say that it's not black and white, but I just think on the whole, indie perfume, I mean, it's just so much more interesting and richer and better quality, usually more sustainable, all of those things. Although, there are a few.
You're not losing anything. You're not limiting yourself really at all. Right?
No, not at all. I mean, I think it is a rabbit hole. That's the only thing. If you're a vegan that, is buying from what we'd call it the high street, shops that you can physically visit, you're fairly limited with what you can buy as a vegan. And there's a few good options. And there are some fantastic companies that I absolutely love, like Floral Street. I don't know if you will have that in America, who are quite readily available, but are, fantastic company. But there's a limit. But once you start looking into indie perfume, there really isn't a limit. And I mean, I have pages and pages on my spreadsheet, my cool spreadsheet, of companies that I still want to try, that I still want to get in touch with, or specific perfumes. And it's endless. You can endlessly find new things, and that's also a brilliant thing. I think, like I say, I had a baby last year, and often days are similar when you've got young children in lots of ways. So to be able to bring that like variety of kind of story and smell and experience, and it's just a spray and it's done right, so you're not impacting on your ability to parent, but it's giving you new sensations and new experiences every day, even when things are similar routine wise. So yeah, it's a whole world. It's a rabbit hole, and it's a bit of a dangerous one, but it's beautiful and wonderful.
All right, I'm going to ask you to recommend maybe 3, 4, 5 companies that you would think that you can recommend what you want. You may not know what our listeners are, mostly US, Canada, and UK. Not so many Australians. I don't know where all my Australians are, but almost anything can be found on the internet now.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And I mean, I do buy from all over the world, and obviously there's travel miles to consider, but then there's also the ethics of the small companies. So
there's always something
yeah.
What are a couple that you really recommend that people investigate or look at?
Yeah, I mean, I think 4,160 Tuesdays and Tion Reinthal are two of my absolute favorites. In terms of American perfumers, I absolutely love Dawn Spencer Hurwitz, DSH Perfumes. She's also goes by. She's been working for decades. She's got a massive, massive, massive backlog. She's so prolific. She just produces things all the time. It's not all vegan, but she's very, very responsive and will tell you what is and what isn't. And she started labeling it. I'm sure she only labels it because I keep asking her and asking her, but that's probably not right. But yeah, she is fantastic, and she just, whatever she turns her hand at, she can do. So you can go on her website and you can just, if you know that you want something that's got violet in it, or if you want something that's got sandalwood in it, or whatever it is, just type it in and it'll all come up. And it's a bit overwhelming because she's got so many, but she does samples, and I highly recommend her. The other American company that I really, really love is Solstice Scents. And they are, again, really small indie company, ship internationally, and they make oils mostly. So they sell 5 milliliter oils, so it makes it really affordable because you can have a lot, and I do. You can have lots of them. They do make like bigger perfumes as well, and they are so creative. So they'll make, I just don't even know. But they've got things like they like things that are sort of inspired by a place. So they've got one that's meant to smell of a master bedroom, or one that's supposed to smell of a very specific fair with all the different smells that you'll get there, or, you know, they're unbelievably creative. You know, even if you order some samples, you get all this beautiful artwork that comes through as well. Again, it's not 100% vegan, but they're very clearly kind of labeled. Yes, I really recommend those two, American company wise. Like I say, Imaginary Authors are fantastic as well. I think they are American. There's so many. I could just probably sit here indefinitely.
Well, they can also go to your Instagram site and just scroll through and see your exhaustive lists, because it's amazing. Yeah. You have a perfumer near you in the Yorkshire area.
Yes, Abbey Perfumery. Yeah, they are very close actually, and they're incredibly affordable and make some fantastic stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure of any of others in Yorkshire. I need to maybe look into that a bit more. I'm always busy playing from far afield. But yeah, there are some fantastic. Yeah, there are some fantastic indies in the UK for sure.
And what now? You mentioned you mentioned you're married. Does your husband have a favorite scent that you wear?
Well, so he's very endlessly patient because I'm constantly sampling things. So, you know, normally I've got one perfume that I'll wear, you know, as my main perfume, or sometimes a few, because I might have one early in the day and then have a shower or whatever. But then usually in the evening, I'll spray one on one arm and one on the other arm, because I'm always testing things. And so all he ever gets in the evening is, smell this, smell this. And the number one thing he says is like, oh yes, like all the others. And it's like, it's nice, it's like all the others. So
his nose is overwhelmed and confused.
Yeah. Probably. And I'm like, but this is nothing like anything else I've ever had. I mean, it's probably also me trying to justify buying it, you know, it's completely different than anything I've got. But then every now and then he'll go, oh, that's nice, that's not like one of the others. I'm like, right, I best buy that.
And so many fragrances now are more unisex, aren't they? They're less for women or for men. Are there any he likes for himself?
Yeah, and there are actually, and I think, you know, he has probably got a little bit more into it since my passion exploded. And yeah, he asked for perfume for Christmas actually, and I got him a few. He wanted sort of cologne style things. Yeah, he's got a few. There's an amazing, it is a fully vegan perfume company called Dolma. It's a UK company, and I think they were making vegan perfume when no one else was, with possibly the exception of Lush. So been going a really long time. So yeah, they've got one that he really likes. And then I mean, I know people have different views about dupes or clones. You know, some people are really passionately against them. But there's one particular company, it is a family-run, you know, company in the UK called Eden that I use a lot, because I'm happy to buy a clone of something that's not vegan and cruelty-free, quite honestly. So, you know, so I do have, I have a few kind of, inspired by, and he uses a lot from Eden, I think, you know, because they're quite likable most of the time, because they're copying some of the big designer ones that, you know.
Yeah, I think I
sell a lot for a reason.
I think I saw that was a fairly recent post. I think you talked about some of the Eden clones, and I don't remember ever noticing that you'd mentioned those. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I do. I wear them a lot. People worry about clones in the sense that it's because the weird thing about perfume is you can't. There's no way to. I can't think how you phrase it. Like to copyright it,
trademark or yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they get copied all the time, and you know, I think I would never want a copy of an indie perfume. That would feel completely wrong. And there are companies that do that. But yeah, like I say, if you're going to make me a version of Chanel No. 5 that's vegan, cruelty-free, and affordable, then I'm more than happy. And that's one of my favorite perfumes. Actually, is their version of that. So yeah, so I kind of, if I want a dupe, I tend to stick to that company because they're family run and they've got these amazing shops. They've got one in Brighton, which is where I'm originally from, down south, and they've literally got like all these kind of like glass bottles all around the shop, like layers and layers of them. and they just sort of say sort of 3 of the notes that are in each one, and you're just free to go around and smell them all, test them all, and then they'll like decant it into a bottle for you if you like it. And so they are all, well, they do have some originals, but most of them are inspired by sort of known perfumes. But you don't see that. You see, oh, this one contains violet, rose and musk, or whatever it is, and you think, oh, that sounds good. So quite a lot of them I've got, I didn't realize what they were a clone for. I just liked them. So it's a really fun shopping experience. And whenever I go to Brighton, I insist on spending time there, and it's so fun.
That's Eden, right?
Eden
Scents. Yeah. Brighton's on my list to get to. It's it's not the largest country, the UK, but there's whole sections. My dad grew up in London and some parts of Scotland, and I try to get there, and I still have missed whole chunks of the UK. So Brighton is on my list. My son-in-law has family in Brighton.
It's fantastic for vegans.
Yeah, and very vegan friendly, right?
So vegan friendly, probably the most vegan friendly place in the UK that I know of. You will eat amazingly in Brighton.
We're going to have to do a field trip, Veg Your Best field trip, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Madeleine, thank you so much for sharing your enthusiasm, because I just think it's so delightful and so authentic to talk to someone who just has a passion for this. Yeah. And I think it's, whether anyone listening is fully committed vegan or not, this is it's something to just have in the back of your mind, that you could choose something different that is cruelty-free, that is artisanal, that's a small company, and that doesn't contain any of these ingredients that come from animals. And it's really a choice that we have that we may not really realize that we have.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine. So, what did you think? What did you think about Madeleine, aka Vegan Perfume Girl? Why I do this podcast is to show you, and mostly to show myself, how many different ways there are to practice a vegan or plant-based or cruelty-free, compassionate lifestyle. And, it's impossible to know in what delightful directions that pursuit will lead you. Even if you aren't fully committed to vegan choices yet, is there some area of your life that you could look into, that you could discover, that you could try? You could try to support the people that are making and creating vegan alternatives. I think that it is just a marvelous, marvelous way to make this world a tiny bit kinder. Okay, kids. All right, we have our work cut out for us. Is there one thing, some area that you haven't even thought about how it's made? I'd love to hear your discoveries and your vegan passions. And until next week, you know the drill, right? Just veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.